Hello and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the podcast where we speak to comedians, comedy producers, and comedy club organisers from across the comedy world. Now, today's guest, he is a man who's done many different things. He's done Muay Thai. He's done MMA. He does tattoos. He's worked in hospitality, and he is now a stand-up comedian. He is a brilliant comic, but most importantly, hecklers beware. Don't upset him or he'll kick the shit out of you. Please welcome TattooDave.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for having me, man.
It's quite funny when I make that comment because I've found that, I don't know if this is always true, but a lot of the times when I come across people in boxing gyms or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or MMA gyms, a lot of the times those people are the least likely to get in a fight. I know that some of them go out of it, but for the most part, most people involved in those types of things are the least likely to get into a fight.
100%. I think part of that is, and you're entirely right, I think the majority of that is just people have discipline. You know, if you're training a martial art or some sort of fighting skill, it teaches you discipline and, you know, when is an appropriate time to step up and when not to. So far, and this might be surprising because I live in Glasgow, I've never been in any sort of fighting outside a ring or a cage. So far, but you never know.
But is it more also because you don't need to prove yourself as well, and also you carry a presence of, as you said, you know when to step up and when to step back?
Definitely, yeah. I think it is about just body language as well. You know, I think certainly any time I've been around kind of trouble or, you know, any kind of scenario where you know there could be a fight, I'm quite comfortable just watching and seeing what's going to happen. Whereas, you know, before I did any training, I would have been out the fucking door. But yeah, as I say, nothing's ever happened yet. But you never know what's around the corner.
What got you into like the world of MMA and like Muay Thai and all of that?
So it was maybe 3 or 4 guys that I tattooed in my studio. They trained at a gym just up the road, and they were always saying, like, come and train at the gym, we'll show you what it's about. And I'm thinking, not a fucking chance. Like, anytime I see you guys in my playground, I'm causing you pain. I can only imagine how this is going to get flipped around when I come to your place. But I went to see a couple of them at different fight shows, and I was like, actually, this looks pretty tasty. I would like to get into this. So yeah, it was just regular tattoo customers. I went to the gym and fell for it straight away, and I was like, I wanted to kind of devote my time to doing this and getting fitter and learning how to kind of handle myself properly.
What got you? What made it addictive? What made you like really commit to it? Just
I think it's the first time I've really like trained at a gym properly, and it's just a good buzz. Like punching a bag, punching pads, getting punched in the head. The first time you get punched in the head and you realise it's not actually that sore, it's quite a liberating feeling. So it's just a good buzz, kind of training all the time, trying to improve and trying to get better. So it's very, very addictive. I have an addictive personality, as you can probably see. So if I'm going to do something, I'll throw myself in, and I'll try and go as far as I can with that.
Do you still do MMA?
No, I don't. I still kind of train, but my last fight was September 2019. That fight, I fought a guy half my age, and I won, but it was hard. You know, you can't fight a young man with faster reflexes, muscle twitch fibers and stuff. You can't really compete for brute strength. So I kind of knew that was going to be my last fight, and I've kind of replaced that since then.
What's so? I mean, I do a bit of jiu-jitsu and
Yep.
Muay Thai and all of that. What made you go into MMA? Like do all of them rather than just one or the
So
other?
yeah, like I only trained MMA for maybe 18 months to 2 years, and I was just kind of bored with doing the Muay Thai. At our gym, which is the Grip House, which at the time was the most successful fighting gym in Britain, at the time there was a big rivalry between the Muay Thai room and the Jiu-Jitsu room. So, it was just kind of like playful banter. And I thought, I'm going to go and try this. And I liked the challenge of learning new skills, like wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So I kind of went and I did that, and I really fell for it. I really excelled at the wrestling side of it. It was very natural to me. So it's maybe the wrestling side of things that I wish I'd done that sooner, because I think I would have been better.
I I find it quite interesting with the BJJ and the wrestling side and watching UFC that a
Yeah,
lot of the times the people that win it seem to be, and this isn't all the time, but a
yeah,
lot of the ones that win seem to be grapplers.
yeah. I mean, if you go back to like the very first UFC events, like UFC one, I think it was kind of Royce Gracie that won. Maybe it was the second one, but I think like dominance on the ground or ground control, that's always been a big part of MMA. But particularly, I suppose that your stand-up game can be brilliant, but if somebody takes you to the ground and your wrestling shite or your jiu-jitsu shite, you're just going to get mauled.
Yeah. No, it is interesting. Even like people often don't comment as well. Like, what's the name, Tapuria or Conor McGregor, known as
Yep.
strikers, but people don't really comment enough on how good their wrestling defense was.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've got a strong takedown defense as a striker, you want to stand on your feet, so you've got to work on your takedown defense. But I don't know. I'll be controversial. McGregor was good for the sport at the time, but I think he was kind of overrated, and he's obviously not fought for a long time. I think he get after the Khabib fight, the two fights, subsequent fights against Poirier. I think he was really shown for what he is. Just a kind of one trick pony, I feel like.
Yeah, I, I'm not so, but also I mean he's not really committed to the sport. Once he got the
No.
money, he completely
Oh,
changed.
of course, of course. I mean, what is your motivation to get up early in the morning and train for 6 hours a day when you've got 20 million in the bank after the Mayweather fight? Like, what is your motivation? I'd be the same, to be fair.
How did Mayweather keep it all up? I mean, that's what shocks me.
I don't know. So here's the thing: Mayweather is the greatest counter boxer there's ever been. Like two or three rounds, Mayweather gets the read of his opponent. He knows what his opponent's going to throw before his opponents throw it, and that's what he does best. He's certainly not the great boxer, the greatest boxer. If you took Muhammad Ali and in a dream fight, Muhammad Ali fought Muhammad Ali, that's a great fight. Mike Tyson fights Mike Tyson, great fight. Mayweather fights Mayweather, that's boring as fuck because they're both just counter striking. But that was Mayweather's arguably the best at doing that. But it's not aggressive boxing, it's intelligent boxing. But that's certainly not what I want to see.
Okay, yeah. Eh, Yeah, it's interesting all of this stuff. I mean, but Brendan Schaub, I'm going to speak controversial as well. What
Okay,
people
yeah,
say about him being like a good comedian, but
yep,
despite doing all of that, yeah,
that is
I agree. He's not a good comedian. He's not done it long enough to get any good,
yeah,
and he's not really needed to develop the chops when he's just friends with Joe Rogan.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, certainly in comedy. I'm noticing that sometimes it's not how good you are or what you know; it's who you know, or how far you can pally in with bigger comedians or promoters. And Brendan Schaub, yeah, you're entirely right. He's certainly done that with Joe Rogan. But again, I would do the same.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, but he has developed. He's made a good living from it, and but he has
Yep.
been found out, and he's done okay. He's done very well, but
Yep.
he's just gone in it for the fame. And right now, especially with social media, a lot of musicians and artists they make their money through touring, and with them, a lot of influencers when they see that comedy tours can make a lot of money, why not capitalize on it?
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's just I think comedy. I've been doing comedy since three and a bit years now, and over the last couple of years, certainly in Glasgow and Scotland, it's become really saturated because more people are getting into it, and I presume that that's the same worldwide as well. It is saturated, and part of that is just people are trying to make quick money, not realising the skill and effort and time it takes to build a proper comprehensive like hour show.
Yeah. I think in the West it's quite congested, definitely. But I
Yeah,
mean, it's now spreading like a virus across the world. A good virus.
yeah, oh
Comedy's a
yeah,
good virus.
yeah, oh definitely, definitely.
Uh, that is, and but people in Glasgow are known for having a good sense of humour, aren't they?
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I think again going back to like the kind of shipbuilding thing, the working class thing, like Glasgow humour is very dry, it's very quick, and I think certainly starting in Glasgow, I think comedians in Glasgow have a head start over comedians maybe anywhere else, certainly in Scotland, because we're kind of sharpened by maybe tougher crowds. You've kind of got to work hard and you've got to read the room, and you've just got to be on the ball 100% of the time. So I know comedians from Edinburgh, other places in Scotland, when they come to Glasgow, they struggle because they just don't have that kind of maybe sharpness. And that's not every comedian, but I think just generally Glasgow's a kind of a tougher gym to train at, if you like.
Yeah, I've heard this a lot, and that there's a bit of an Edinburgh and Glasgow rivalry, and I
Yeah,
heard the story from Peter Wood. He told me that there was this mad clown act that went into the stand in Edinburgh and smashed it, and he saw him do
yeah.
brilliantly. But then as soon as he went to Glasgow, I'm not going to do a Scottish accent, so I'll do another accent. He went, "You like, mate? What is this pig shit?"
Wow. Yeah, I bet that didn't go down well at all. Fucking hell.
But it's funny that there's such a big difference, isn't there, between
Oh,
Glasgow and Edinburgh? Oh my God.
100%. Yeah, I mean, certainly again, Glasgow, the majority of crowds in Glasgow are kind of working class. Whereas you go through Edinburgh and it's either, it's normally a mixture of working class and, upper class and tourists. So I find it's harder to judge an audience in Edinburgh because you're going to get that mix. So, there's a lot of material that kills in Glasgow, and when you go through Edinburgh, you've got to kind of dial it back a wee bit because they're not going to go for the kind of the raunchier or more brutal punchlines.
Yeah, yeah. It's but is there what's brought the fame rivalry between Edinburgh and Glasgow? What's brought that along?
I think it's just like the two biggest cities in the country. Like Glasgow's the biggest city, but Edinburgh's the capital city. I think there's just always going to be rivalry. It's and you can't even say it's a football thing because their football teams are shite. So yeah, it's just two big cities. I think there is a phrase. I'll say that you'll have more fun at a Glasgow funeral than at an Edinburgh wedding.
What? What?
Yep, that's a very well known Scottish phrase and 100% true.
Why would you say that?
Because Glasgow's just a fun city, like Edinburgh's fun for 1 month out the year, which is the fringe, and then the rest of the time it's just a bit boring if we're all honest. Like Edinburgh's nice to look at, Edinburgh's nice to kind of go and visit, but you wouldn't want to spend a lot of time there.
Are people too hold back, and they're too? Is that what you say?
I think, and again, that this is only a generalisation. It's not everybody in Edinburgh, but I think people in Edinburgh are quite just up themselves, and they think they're full of their own self-importance because it's a capital city, or they've got the castle.
What would happen to to Scotland? And this is going to be controversial,
Yeah.
but in 2015, I think there was a big referendum. If Scotland did leave the UK, what would happen? And what would happen with Edinburgh and Glasgow? Would the
As I say, if and when Scotland gets independence, we'll take Liverpool and Newcastle, and you guys can have Edinburgh. Just do like a transfer deal. Um, aye.
No, that's nice. But
Edinburgh would still be the capital, I presume. They've got the Scottish Parliament there as well, but that's okay.
it's but with Scotland as a whole, politically, what's the situation? I know that Nicola Sturgeon was big with the SNP,
Uh,
and then she got something happened with her, and she got kicked out, and they got a new leader, and then the SNP's lost a little bit.
Yeah, there was a bit of a storm in a teacup. So that there was money that went missing, a small amount of money missing from. It wasn't an SNP bank account; it was a related bank account, and apparently that was used by her ex-husband to buy a caravan. But the case was kind of thrown out of court anyway, so it was never really a big thing or an actual proven thing. However, she kind of stepped down, and the two leaders that the SNP have had since her, they're quite lacklustre. They don't have personality, and they're really not the people, in my opinion, to drive forwards the movement for Scottish independence.
Mm. Mm. It's yeah, I do. Okay, that's what's happened.
Yeah. Again, that's just that's my take, and that's my opinion. But from what I see in the various sources I've read, that's kind of what it boils down to at the moment. Scotland really need the Scottish National Party really need a kind of a motivational leader, which they don't have at the moment.
Okay. With you working in you own a tattoo store? And
yes.
That you said that's been going for 10 years.
20 years.
20 years. Whoa.
20 years we've been here. Yeah. So I'm doing something right somewhere. I don't know what it is, but.
Now, with it being for 20 years, a lot of people love tattoos, but you get every sort of hook and cranny in Glasgow coming towards you. What have you learned about people through like being a tattoo artist? Because I know that I've got a cousin that does tattoos in LA, but there's all these different categories. Like I was asking him, could you do one of like Michael Jackson? He says, "Oh, I don't do realism tattoos." Now,
sure.
What's it like? What have you learned about people being a tattoo artist, and what kind of category do you focus on?
Yeah, so I've learned being a tattooist, like don't judge people. You know, like I'm very fortunate. I work in a working class area, but I get people coming from all over the country and even abroad as well to get tattooed here. And don't judge people. You know, we get working class people come in that are fucking absolutely brilliant people. Others are just rat bags, and again we get like upper class people. You know, kind of middle class people. Same difference. Like some people are brilliant, some people are just terrible people, and you don't really know a person until you sit down and talk to them. And tattooing somebody, that's when you see somebody's true colours. That's when you see what they're made of, and how they're going to deal with the tattoo. And people chat as well. Tattoos aren't easy for a lot of people to get. So when I'm tattooing somebody, they're going to chat to me more than they would chat to anybody else. You know, like a doctor, fucking a lawyer, a barman, whatever. So yeah, I'm quite lucky that I get to see the best and worst of people in the tattoo studio.
And what does it reveal themselves? So like when you're tattooing on someone's ass and you're putting the laser and they're hurting, is that where it comes out?
It can be, yeah. You know, you're going to see people that are at their most vulnerable moments. And don't get me wrong, some people just clam up, they don't talk at all, but the majority of people like to talk and just chat shit just to take their mind off what's actually happening. I will state for the record as well, I don't tattoo too many asses nowadays.
You only tattoo nice people.
No, well, I wish I could say that, but yeah, the majority of people I do tattoo are nice, which is good.
And you can tell me that I'm going too far, but what is it when you're chatting to them and like when you're doing the tattoo? How do people reveal themselves when you're chatting to them?
I think I don't actually. I don't know how to put it in words. I just think, as I say, people are vulnerable, so they would maybe just voice opinions, or they would just take a conversation further than they would with anybody else. Maybe just to keep the conversation going. But I suppose thinking about it right now, there's obviously a level of trust when you choose somebody to do your tattoo for you. So yeah, maybe they just feel they can open up a wee bit more to me, which it hasn't occurred to me until this second. And it is like it's like a doctor's surgery as well. You know, like what happens in the tattoo studio stays in the tattoo studio.
Ah, is it a bit like with a barman? So I had the story a while ago. At one of the places where I run a comedy show, there was a barman. I won't say his name, but he said one of the audience members came in to the gig, and he realised that the guy was taking cocaine because he was too energetic and going like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
just love comedy," and he was saying to him right that this generation is too sensitive to jokes, but he's a barman who's from that generation,
yep,
and the audience member, like an audience member came in, she was quite attractive, you have to say that, but he
yep,
went to her and went, "Whoa," and then the barman told me, he says, "What are you saying that now I have to keep an eye on you?" And
yep,
like
yeah,
with a hospitality worker, they see that, don't they? Because the
yep,
person's like, "Oh, you're not going to see me again," so I get to hear things about.
yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. Certainly coming from hospitality in my younger days, like again, you see the best and worst of people, but you do get to read people as well. You kind of know who's maybe going to be bother and who's going to cause trouble.
Did that help a lot in terms of before you started the tattoo studio?
Yeah, I think just being able to read people and being able to hold a conversation with people working in bars and restaurants certainly translated into being able to speak to people when I was tattooing them as well.
How important is it to adjust a different sort of behavior and conversation based on who you're talking to and having a good read?
Yeah, I think like people, as I say, some people will chat away when they're getting tattoos. Some people just want to go into their kind of happy place, their internal happy place, maybe put on their headphones. But yeah, you can judge who wants to talk and who doesn't want to talk, and what they want to talk about and what they don't want to talk about, which is kind of cool.
And that must help a lot in terms of like when you're doing the gigs, especially in Glasgow.
Yeah, yeah. Again, just being able to like read a crowd or read a particular group of people in that crowd is really helpful. You know, particularly when you're hosting a gig. There's if there's a group of people being really loud, you've got to address them. You've got to speak to them and fucking tell them to shut the fuck up. But you've got to do that in a certain way that's not gonna make the situation worse or make them louder. And it's the same with doing any crowd work. I think doing comedy, you know, you have to work out who the person is I'm talking to. What are they like? Do they want to be talked to? Are they going to be good value? Or do I move on to somebody else? So yeah, this all this stuff, hospitality, tattooing, it's been great for me. Kind of just reading a room or reading a person.
I want to hear what you think of this statement because this is a very good thing that I think I've noticed in a lot of comics and was said to me about a year ago by the brilliant. He doesn't do comedy as much anymore, but he bloody should do because he's brilliant. But he does a lot of acting. He used to do a lot of stand up. But there's a great guy called Gareth Berliner, and he made this great quote about stand up comics and saying the most dangerous thing you can do as a comic is to cut yourself from the people who
Yep.
you need to understand to be an act. Like if you're not connected with your general person, like going with certain experiences or this and that, it's so important to have that. And I think that's very true. Like in
100%.
for myself as a comic, and like I've in at the moment, there's certain things that I can't connect with people in a certain way, and it just helps so much in terms of being funny and connecting with the audience if you can see where they're coming from.
Of course, of course. I think as a comedian, like you have to go on that stage and you have to win that audience straight away. You have to let them know that you're a good person, that you're funny, and you know what you're doing, so that they can relax and they can just join you as you're telling your stories and get them along for the ride. I think that's the most important thing as a comedian, because if you don't have the people on your side, you're just fucking farting into the wind.
What was a moment on stage where you feel that you were able to do that? you were struggling on stage, you saw someone else struggle on stage, but they,
Yep.
because of those sort of skills, they completely changed the gig around and smashed it.
Yeah, like so during the Fringe earlier this month, there was a couple of gigs where I went out and I was first on. So you've only got the MC doing a minimal bit of crowd work. So it's kind of hard to gauge that. And as soon as you walk onto that stage, you do your opener. You kind of judge if you can what the crowd's like from that, and then you go into your material. So a couple of times I kind of misjudged the room. I've done my first bit of proper material after my opening couple of minutes, and it's just fucking tumbleweed. So you've got to dress it and you go, right, ladies and gentlemen, I have misjudged the temperature of the room. That will get a laugh. And then what I'll say, I'm now going to perform a comedy U-turn, and I'll just switch material. I'll switch to my more Edinburgh-friendly material, or kind of steer it down a different path from where I was going. So yeah, that's happened a couple of times, but during the Fringe you're going to get that. It's a more international audience during the Fringe, so it's harder to read a room. But you've got to, for me, you've got to address that you've made a mistake, make a joke about it, and then fucking go down road B instead.
So I saw that last year it was one of the quietest fringes that, from a
Yep.
lot of comics. But this year, I don't know, from the outside, and I'm a bit gutted that I didn't go. How
Yeah.
was the festival? Is it still going down that trend of like being limited in terms of the audience, in terms of comics performing because of the pricing?
For me, like the pricing's certainly getting out of hand, and it's actually putting a lot of people off, particularly since we're still in the middle of a cost of living crisis. So the Fringe felt different from me this year. Just I don't know, there was a different atmosphere. I think there's still like over fucking 10,000 shows on at the Fringe. So there's more people competing for what is effectively a finite amount of bodies that you can fit in the door. So I don't know. I think the Fringe as it stands, if there aren't significant changes, and I don't know what they are, but I think unless there's significant changes, it's just going to implode over the next couple of years, because there's too many people at the top making too much money, and then there's the comedians or the acts at the bottom, like the soldiers in the trenches, that are fighting to even break even with their shows.
And by implode, what would you mean? You think it's just gonna there's gonna be a big moment where what's gonna happen?
I think a lot of people just stop doing it. I think there's a lot of professional acts this year. I've noticed they only did half runs for the first time in their careers as a professional. They're only doing half runs now because it's too expensive for them. They're not making enough money, and there's I don't know. I think the standard of acts is maybe getting worse as well. I think
Uh,
every person that's done a fucking comedy course over the last year now thinks they can go and do a solo show, even though they've not even been doing comedy for a year. And realistically, you've got to be in it 2 or 3 years before you have a tangible fucking 55 minutes to put out there. So the standards maybe getting worse at the bottom, and the pro acts at the top are going, why am I doing this? They don't need the Fringe. I think it's people in my level that are just moving into paid weekend work that need the Fringe to kind of progress themselves, progress their careers. And it's really not about that anymore. It's just this fucking money making scheme for a lot of big businesses.
but it's so in depth. It's been so ingrained into comedy, and
Yep.
there's a lot of acts that are still going to do it, especially new acts.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
audiences, it may die out. That's the thing that's going to kill it, rather than just the performers.
Oh no, no, absolutely. But these performers, if you are a new act and you're doing an hour show when you're not ready to do an hour show, the people that take a chance on coming and seeing you have wasted an hour. They've wasted their money, and they're far less likely to take a chance on another act that they don't know.
And you think that the fringe is going to kill itself
And
by
yeah,
doing that?
from both ends, from the people at the top not filtering the money down, and from the people that are on the lowest rung, and I don't mean that offensively, but the people on the lowest rung trying to run before they can learn to walk.
What do you? This is a saying passed on from my father, and he always says to me, "People are what they need to be." How long? What do you think is going to be going to happen in regards to the? Yeah, I reckon probably changes are going to happen in the fringe when
Yep.
people at the top need to make changes. When it
Yeah.
affects them, that's when it's going to change.
Of
Because
course.
at the moment, it definitely isn't affecting them. They're like, oh, I don't care. Oh, the peasants, they let them struggle
Yeah.
whilst I make £1 million. And
Yep. Yeah, and again, it's it's not even the people associated with the fringe. If you look at the accommodation for Edinburgh as well, I know people that I've gigged with at the fringe and have ran shows at the fringe for the past 10 years, and they didn't come up this year because it was too expensive for them to stay. So they're kind of getting hit from all angles.
I heard so a couple of times, a couple of years ago, I got some rides from Uber drivers, and they told me stories how they knew people who would charge like triple the price of accommodation for 1 month to
Oh
people,
yeah,
and they heard instances where they actually kicked people out who were already staying just so they could do that.
yeah, and it's happened again this year. People booked their accommodation a year ahead, and then when the Oasis tour was announced, they were basically told, "Oh, sorry, we've double booked you," even though the room's back on fucking the website for 3 or 4 times the amount.
But it's amazing how they can take advantage without. Well, I mean, being a landlord is not something I would envy, but
Yeah,
for like a month without much, it's obviously not easy. But for a lot less work, they can make so much money because they know
of
people are
course.
desperate. When people are
Yeah,
desperate, like with health or whatever, people are like, "Oh, it's time for money."
yeah, yeah. No, of course it is. Of course it is. Just there's a lot of people just trying to squeeze what they can from anybody now, and they don't really give a fuck about who or how they do it.
But do you think growing up in like Glasgow and in a rough part of Glasgow, does that teach you how to not be duped, how to not get
So,
conned into certain things?
so I'll need to say I grew up in quite a nice part of
Oh, okay,
Glasgow,
sorry.
quite an affluent area. But I've lived in a working class area since I was 18, and it's certainly opened my eyes to a lot of things. So yeah, maybe comes from like a privileged childhood, and then going to a less well regarded area. That opened my eyes, and that certainly made me aware of people are out for what they can. So yeah, I'm maybe a wee bit more conscious of when somebody's trying to scam me.
Because that's what I've heard from Rich Villa, which is a guy who I interviewed, who's a former human trafficker and drug dealer in LA, and he told me that being in that life taught him so much about people that whenever someone's trying to poach his gig, like because he's street smarts, he would tip the bar staff, and then they would tell him, and then he
Yeah,
would walk into the room and stop that from happening.
brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, it's like any, if you have a shite experience going on or something that affects you negatively, if you can manage to put that down as a learning experience, um, yeah, good for you. It's not always possible to do, but yeah, if you can take something from that shite and turn it into a wee bit of knowledge, yeah, good for you.
What have been things that have happened to you where you've been able to like add that and make turn copper into gold?
Do you know what? I've actually no idea. I think, yeah, that's a bit of a deep question.
So
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think just I'm quite a motivated person, as I said earlier. So if I want to do something, I'm going to go out and chase it, and I'm going to make it work. And maybe that comes from kind of being brought up in a good school in a good area, and told that if you want to do something, then you can do it. And maybe just having a very encouraging, supportive family has kind of lately emboldened that in me as well. Certainly, and I know you want to talk about this. When I started doing comedy, I had the idea of going and doing comedy in prisons in Scotland, which basically just came from a love of Johnny Cash.
oh,
Jo- yeah, so Johnny Cash is renowned for doing musical gigs in jails across America, and I was like, why can't we do comedy in jails? And everybody says nobody's going to go for it. It's a shite idea. It will not work. And I kind of just I made it happen. Kind of sent out a lot of emails. Went to see a lot of people in a lot of prisons, and put together a good team of 6 comedians called Wholesome Prison Blues, which is a take on Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. And we've been doing comedy in prisons across Scotland for almost 3 years now.
And how much did that sort of teach you as a performer? And so you,
Oh, yeah. Like, so if you can on a Monday morning go into a prison and control a room of 150 prisoners and hold their attention, or learn how to hold their attention, Friday night in Glasgow is fucking easy. You know, there's been hard prison gigs, there's been really tough prison gigs. Again, it's just being able to read a room. And sometimes we've noticed you can go into a prison and there's been an incident that happened in that prison that day or the day before that's affected everybody's kind of their mental state. So you're kind of constantly up against it. But we love doing these prison gigs. I think we've done about 50 or 60 now. And we're kind of smashing them now. You know, there was a couple of dodgy ones, as I say. But now when we go in, we can control the material that we do. And we can kind of control the times of day that we're going in as well, which is good, as opposed to going in on a Monday morning.
Okay. What was the lesson that you learned from, what was the specific things that you learned from those tough ones and adjusted?
So you kind of have to realise, again, people are obviously in prison for different reasons. They have a different emotional states, or just different places that they're in mentally. And again, it's going back to what I was saying about crowd work. Like you've got to speak to that person and work out where they are, what they're about. Do they want to be involved? Should you back off? And that's again, you know, go back to crowd work once more. It's about reading the person, reading the room, and adjusting what you're going to do accordingly.
And has there been some very funny situations that are like, oh, you could not write this?
Yeah, it's great. So initially there was 6 of us as part of the Wholesome Prison Blues team, and we all have material about going into prisons and different stories about what's happened, interacting with the guards, the governors, the actual prisoners as well. So and unfortunately, it's all material that's still going. So I don't want to go too much into the stories, but I went to see Amanda Hussey. She was the only female person, the only female performer in Wholesome Prison Blues. She's written like half a show just about being in prison and doing comedy, which is great. Jack Traynor, a lot of his stuff. He is one of the best Scottish comedians at the moment. He's got a lot of material about prisons as well. Paddy Linton, Eddie McKenzie, Mikey Motion, myself. We've all just drawn so much from this kind of unique experience of doing material in prison. And a lot of the guys we found going into prisons, the majority of their day is about banter and it's about chat. And if you don't give it back straight away, your life is going to be miserable in there. So we learned straight away as well, if you've got a heckler in prison, you need to fucking sort that out straight away. Otherwise, he's going to keep going and somebody else will jump in and somebody else will jump in. So again, you know, if we can deal with prisoners heckling, we can deal with some fucking drunk arsehole on the outside.
Yeah, definitely. And so you spoke about Johnny Cash going to prisons, but how did it all, like, you got like 6 or 7 people. How did you become like the mafioso of like prison performing, and like how did you keep it all going? Did someone contact you and say, "Hey, come on, like we got some nanny guys here. Could you like sort it up, Dave?"
No, I had to do the majority of the work. So I had the idea, and I kind of spoke to Paddy Linton. Paddy Linton, great comedian, at the time promoted a lot of nights in Glasgow. a fantastic host. He is one of the best MCs in Scotland. So I spoke to Paddy, and he kind of had a couple of ideas for people who would take in. So I tattooed a couple of people that work for the Scottish Prison Service. I asked them to get me a couple of contacts. They sent me a couple of emails each. I noticed that the home address of the email, like at Scottish Prisons, blah, blah, that was the same. And it was just people's names. So I get lists of every governor, deputy governor, and head of offender outcomes in Scotland and just guessed the emails. So I sent out like 300 or 400 emails just to what could be these persons' emails. So a lot of them bounced back, but the majority of emails got through to who I needed them to get through. And in the email, I just explained this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is the team we're going to bring in. This is what we think we can do for the prison and for the people inside. And 2 or 3 prisons get back straight away. They were very into it. A couple didn't. So we did our first gig on a Thursday afternoon at Lomos Prison, just outside Glasgow. That was the Thursday afternoon. On the Friday morning, I woke up to emails from every other prison in Scotland that had fucking ignored us, asking us to go in and do a show because they'd heard the feedback from the day before from the team at Lomos Prison. So it kind of just really snowballed. And it went from wanting to do 1 or 2 prison gigs just for the experience to being like a regular thing.
Is it like a weekly thing, like every week, or is it?
No. So it basically depends on our diaries now. So 3 years ago, it was quite easy to get 6 people's diaries together that were just breaking into weekend work. Whereas now we're all getting, it's very hard to marry our diaries up. So, and Eddie McKenzie's moved to Hawaii as well. So that's kind of removed him at the moment. Amanda's chosen to go off and do her own solo stuff as well, which is fine. We've had brilliant comics step in and help us. We've had Mark Black, Jojo Sutherland, Darren Connell, Liam Farley all kind of step in as well. So at the moment we've not got anything in the diaries because it's you'll know yourself, it's very hard to get comedians to commit to a date, let alone 5 or 6 to commit to a date at the one time. So it's kind of few and far between at the moment, unfortunately. But the feedback we get, I'm very proud. The feedback we get from every prison is that after we've done a gig, the general atmosphere in the prison is a lot more relaxed, and it's just a nicer place to be for the residents and the people that work there as well. So I'm very proud of that.
As what so yeah, what with the impact of the shows themselves, it's helping people in the prisoners be more relaxed and less
Yeah,
trouble, effectively.
yeah, it's just basically treating them like human beings and giving them an opportunity to come to a show that they wouldn't get to do on the inside or certainly on the outside as well. I think a lot of people that we perform to have never been to a comedy show before.
Hmm. And what has any of them gone on to do comedy or like become
Yeah,
comedians?
so Paddy and myself, we actually teach a stand-up comedy course in Barlinnie Prison in Glasgow now, which is we kind of get in through the back door. So it's a comedy course, but it's teaching transferable skills. So it's teaching creative writing, how to speak confidently in public, dealing with nerves, kind of stuff like that. So we're actually paid by the Scottish Prison Service to go in and teach these courses. And we've had a couple of guys that have done the courses that have now come out after their sentences, and we've helped facilitate them to perform in a couple of comedy shows as well, which is great.
Bloody hell, that's incredible.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's really good. It was just we had no idea this could be a thing until Paddy had the idea.
whoa. And it's been going for bloody hell, that's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. So we did the first comedy course this time last year. It started, um, and we had a show at the Glasgow International Comedy Festival in March this year that had a couple of the guys from our first course on it. So that was fantastic to see.
Oh God! And how did they find it as a whole when they went up on stage afterwards?
Oh, like absolutely shining themselves. But you know what it's like after you perform, you're buzzing, particularly your first kind of big gig. So yeah, they were buzzing. It's great. Hopefully they've managed to stay out of trouble as well.
Well, I wouldn't want to heckle them if I was an audience member.
So this is it. There's two acts. You know, I'm getting any hassle from the crowd.
Oh, that's brilliant, man.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
No, I really like to see a lot more of these sort of things in comedy where people are doing something different and making a change,
Yeah,
like what Katie Palmer's done for like people, comedians in Scotland, and paying their fringes. Fringes,
like
brilliant.
Katie Palmer is an absolute gem. I've known Katie for a couple of years through her work with the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. But she helped me with my solo show as well. I kind of reached out to Katie, and she just helped me tweak my solo show. Just a couple of pointers here and there, just to maintain the show being my own. But she really steered me in the right direction, and she's done the same with Jack and I over the Fringe, getting them funding for their Fringe shows, and obviously help them build their shows and into what were two great fucking shows, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, Katie's a gem. If anybody has an opportunity to work with Katie Palmer at Brass Tacks, I would say go for it because she's so knowledgeable.
And so passionate and like a real trooper that supports people and like yeah, considering that comedy is a very most of the part is a self-serving interest. To see a
Of
lot
course.
of people that do things making things better for
Yep.
comedians and the comedy community is great, and I just want to see more of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was surprised when I started doing comedy because I thought everybody would be kicking their granny under a bus and stepping on top of each other to get a gig. But overall, it's very supportive. Everybody wants to see everybody else doing well, and it's great. It's nothing like I expected it to be.
No, it's that there is still a bit of that, but for the most part,
Oh
it
yeah,
is surprising. Yeah, I think that's something that doesn't. We hear a lot of the negatives of comedy, but I
yep.
think one thing that needs to be spoken of is you'll be surprised at how supportive it can be in comedy, and also how some supporting some of the big names are to comedians.
Yeah, there's certainly the big Scottish acts just now. Mark Nelson, Susie McCabe, always very generous with their time when they're doing kind of like open mic gigs or working on new material. They're always very generous. If you get any questions, they're more than happy to help. And I think that's great that people at the top levels still want to help the people that are kind of on their way up. And it's fantastic to see.
But one person who's gone who did a lot of that is Gary Little, wasn't it? He was
Yeah.
quite a
Um,
great guy.
yeah, so obviously Gary had a hiking accident 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, Gary was a great guy. Again, Gary had a reputation for kind of being in and out of gig, but when Gary Little told you you'd done well, you fucking knew you'd done well. Absolutely great guy. My eldest daughter does comedy as well, and probably this so at the start of August, she did a warm up gig in Glasgow, a fringe warm up gig. She was on the bill with Gary Little, and Gary Little was co-headliner. So as I say, Gary was notorious for being sharp. He did his 20 minutes and then he was home. The second headliner was running late, so Gary had to go over his 20 minutes. Which, if you knew Gary well, that wouldn't have been well received. You know, he won 20 minutes fucking out the door, and Gary did an extra 5-10 minutes, and you could tell he loved. Sorry, Gary fucking loved that extra time. Like he was just reveling in it. He was so happy just to be with a good crowd with good comedians, and he fucking bossed it. And um, that was the last time I saw him. But it's so nice to have that memory of him just fucking being there and just being in the moment and just enjoying comedy for comedy's sake. Um, yeah, brilliant guy.
He is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's yeah, it's funny as well. Like people often don't see the effect of certain people until they've gone.
yeah. Yeah, but Gary, there's been so many nice things written about Gary in the last couple of weeks. But an absolute powerhouse, a proper Glaswegian comedian. He really embodied everything it was to do comedy in Glasgow. He was a guy that, as I say, when he complimented you, he fucking meant it.
Yeah. He's a powerhouse in life, and like, yeah, he was incredible, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
But yeah, but the Scottish scene, it would you say it's like from when you started to where it is now, it's like really booming and going forward because you have people like Kate Palmer, Gary, Susie McCabe, and like yourself, you're doing a lot of things for the community. Would you say
Yeah,
like it's just going? Psh,
yeah, I think like I can probably only speak for Glasgow, but I think that the Glasgow comedy scene is so healthy just now. Any night of the week, you've got your choice of maybe 2 or 3 different comedy gigs or open mics, 7 nights a week, and that's great. The team at Blackfriars in the city centre, they've really turned Blackfriars into one of the best comedy clubs in the country. They've always got a high standard of acts on. Their comedy nights are brilliant, and they're very supportive. Blackfriars paid for Jack Trainor's Fringe run this year through Katie Palmer and Brass Tacks. So it's really, really healthy, and it's just exciting. Like there's guys I gig with on a regular basis that that they're on their way. It's brilliant. Jack Trainor, obviously. Peter Bell started the same time as I did. He's getting booked by Peter Vincent up and down the country. Paddy Linton opened for Darren Connell at the King's Theatre earlier this year. I will be missing people out, but it's so healthy up here just now. It's brilliant, and we're fucking moving our way further south all the time, which is a good buzz as well.
what's the yeah? So with so with it moving up and is the as it I know that there's another thing that's been said that a lot of Scottish comedians aren't being recognised in the fringe. Has that changed? Would you say that's changed a lot since you started? That Scottish acts is starting to get recognition in the fringe.
I don't think so. I know Katie kind of spoke publicly about this, that the list of the best shows, the best acts of the fringe, there weren't any Scottish acts on that, and I think that's been the way for years now. Certainly since I've been doing comedy, and I know a lot longer. I don't know if that's they're just not getting the recognition, or they don't have the money fucking pumped into PR and marketing to get the reviewers or the people that judge these competitions. But I think certainly Scotland has been underrepresented in terms of best shows or best acts at the fringe. Certainly this year there was a lot of names getting off that list that should have been on there. But as for the reasons for that, I don't know. I don't know if it's. I don't know if you could put it down to regional bias or it is just a money thing, but they're not getting the exposure that a lot of maybe southern acts are.
But you, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tom Little said something in that a lot of people, big comedy producers, weren't at the fringe a lot of the times, and they're in London. If you want to get on TV, go to London. I don't know how true that is now because you have people like Ignacio Lopez, who's in Wales, who got on TV. So I think that's changing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my understanding, the majority of comedians you see on TV are managed by 1 or 2 big companies that are based in London, and that seems to be why it's the same comedians that are on rotation all the time for Taskmaster, for House of Games, for fucking Pointless, for all these game shows. It seems to be the same faces, and from what I understand, it is because they're represented by the same companies, and maybe moving down to London. Or gigging regularly in London is the way to be seen by these agencies. I don't know.
Did you see an interesting Twitter article? And they did a good bit of journalism, and it was posted a lot. They said that one of the big PR companies, what's it called? I can't remember the article, but they own one of the review companies.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I don't know. I kind of read the piece, but from what I kind of thought it was a hack piece because I don't think it was a secret that this agency ran one of the review companies. I think it was pretty open. That was my understanding of it. But yeah, I mean, if you run a comedy agency and you also run a review company, you would think that's maybe a conflict of interests. But at the same time, it's also really fucking smart, isn't it?
Oh yeah. But I mean, for someone who has power, the amount of excitement and ejaculation they get from being able to do that, if they're power hungry
Oh
and
yeah.
all of those things, my God, the joy they must get.
Oh aye, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I don't have an in-depth knowledge of kind of London-based comedians or kind of comedy agencies at the moment. That's something that will come over the next couple of years, I'm sure.
Sure. What's it called? What did I say? Yeah. And you said that you've gigged in you said, and this it's a shame that we didn't record this bit, but I loved what you said here. You said Scousers, Glaswegians in England or something like that.
Yeah. I think so. I think my legacy said that Glaswegians are just Scousers from north of the
Yeah.
border. I would say Scousers are Glaswegians from south of the border. Um, Yeah, like the again, it's once again going back to like the working class building communities, Newcastle, Glasgow, Liverpool, very similar kind of humours, and yeah, like I've always done well in Liverpool and Newcastle and Manchester as well when I've been down there, which is great, and it's a good buzz to go to a different city and perform and do well and be asked back.
Do they treat you a bit like an exotic fruit as well?
So I think certainly as a Glaswegian comedian, I think there's an expectation that you have to be funny
Ah,
because Billy Connolly, Frankie Boyle, Kevin Bridges, if you come from Scotland and Glasgow in particular, you know what you're doing. So there is that expectation, but again, that maybe just gets the crowd on your side a wee bit easier.
yeah. And you also have the expectation that if you upset them, you get the Glaswegian kiss.
Well, I mean,
No,
I
I'm joking.
don't know if I'm comfortable using physical violence or the threat of violence to get a laugh. I'm not above it. I'm just not comfortable.
I have heard a story about Emmanuel Sanubi doing that at the King on Gong show. He's a big
Okay.
black guy, big bouncer, and apparently when he was doing a Gong show, he scared a few of the audience members and he made people
Amazing.
laugh. And he completely,
Yeah, Emmanuel's such a nice guy as well. He's a brilliant comedian, but he's just a sweetheart. He's so nice to talk to, but physically imposing. But I mean, he does a lot of material about that, doesn't he? And working, I think he worked as a door steward as well, didn't he?
yeah, he did. It did. I mean, he doesn't really. How big he is, a lot of the times he doesn't really need. I mean, one menacing look with the size he is, a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the times that'll put a lot of people off.
Yep. And that's great for a gong show.
I wish I could see it, to be honest, because I
Yep.
it's only feel like a friend of mine who told me about it.
All right. Okay. But yeah, I mean, a massive fucking 6'10" guy. You're not going to hold that up and gong him off, are you?
Yes.
Wow.
Uh, Now, for anyone that's sort of listening in right now, you've got such a wide range of experiences and different things that you bring into comedy and into life.
Yep.
What advice would you give to comedians or people looking to get into comedy?
I would say start with what you know. Kind of write material about things you know well, things you know inside out, things that make you laugh, things that make you angry, and concentrate on a five. Like, get 5 minutes of fucking brilliant material, learn inside out, front to back, play about with the order of it, because some jokes are funnier if you do 3-1-2 rather than 1-2-3. Learn your material, and go and see lots of different comedy shows. Like, the one thing that will help you get better as a comedian is just seeing different comedians.
Okay. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed Tattoo Dave. You know where to find out about him. If you want to know about the podcast, and if you like this episode, it'll be on this Sunday. You can and leave this podcast review on Amazon or iTunes. Also, if you really like the podcast, subscribe to the Patreon. But if you didn't, just forget this podcast existed. No, I'm joking. No, hope you've enjoyed it. The next guest is going to be Chris Conway from Blackfriars. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon.